Welcome into Media Monday Raven Nation. I'm Tyler Aragao alongside Kim Buckley, head coach of the Franklin Pierce men's bowling team. And Coach, we'll get right into it. Obviously, it's a relatively new program. You're trying to build something up here. Before we get into any of the individual player performances, matches, or anything like that, let's go through just your experience as heading this program in its first real season.
Running the men's program for the first time was definitely more challenging than the women's for the first time. Our women's program we were able to offer scholarships, whereas the men's we aren't. So a lot of that is finding local talent that's interested in bowling on the team at the cost of just going to the school. So it's definitely challenging getting a group of guys together for that. But we do have a great group of 6 individuals who really buy into the program and want to see the program succeed in the future.
You mentioned that local talent. You have Ben Drogue out there from Keene, New Hampshire, just 30 minutes up the road. He bowled 268, broke the record for a single game, the school record for a single game. Talk about his performance over the week, as it seems he's been one of your more consistent, steady players right off the get-go.
Yeah, Ben is one of our freshmen. He's been doing a fantastic job this year. The record actually before was held by Jessica Davies, who had a 266, so he was kind of excited to beat her by 2 pins. But he's really been performing. He's been our anchor since the beginning, one of our more consistent guys. He was recruited by some other schools, especially community colleges and some other top programs, and we're happy that he did decide to come to us because I think he will really help bring this program to where we want to be, which is definitely playoff contention, hopefully by next season.
And talking about the recruiting process, were there any struggles with that? Because you didn't highlight earlier not being able to have the luxury of offering scholarships and all that. Were there any snags ever hit kind of going through that process?
We've gotten a lot of interest. Obviously, a lot of people are always looking for scholarship money. We do have some other local talent on our team. We have Will Robinson, who's also from Keene. He's a senior on campus this year. And we have Ryan, who's a junior, and he's from the Manchester area. So we were able to keep some local guys on the team, and kind of bring that out. And I think it'll help as more of the New Hampshire high school bowlers see what the former players were doing. Hopefully they'll want to add and join in the program as well.
Now you're in your first season. You're trying to build that culture up here. It's gotten off to a pretty solid start, and as you're trying to bring in more of these high schoolers, what is the culture that you want to try and establish here as the head coach of men's bowling?
This year's kind of more of a fun, laid-back, setting, just because it's new and we're just kind of getting our feet wet. But I'd like to get their culture to be very similar to the girls, where, we stay focused all the way through and we kind of have that. They still practice the same amount of times that the girls practice. They're in the weight room the same time. So we kind of merge the 2 programs together as much as we can. So when one team's in the weight room, really both teams are in the weight room. Both teams are at practice at the same time. So we kind of try to keep the culture the same for both programs because I think they both see each other as one united big program rather than just a separate men's and women's program.
Absolutely, and we actually talked to Jess earlier this year, and I had the question to ask her, being a collegiate athlete and playing a sport like bowling oftentimes comes under a bit of scrutiny. People look at that and say, well, it's not like it's a sport like basketball, it's a sport like hockey or football or anything like that. So when you're in that position where you're trying to build a program up like bowling, what are the certain challenges that a coach can have, whereas, if you're a new coach, say, in football or in hockey or one of the more, major sports?
I think the biggest challenge is understanding the individual talent of each bowler, understanding their game and how they perform at their highest or what is their weakness. Once you get some time with the player, you kind of have a better understanding, so when you're watching them throw shots, you can kind of assume what the ball's going to do. And every person is individually, and you kind of have to handle each situation separately, whereas you can't just, with some of the other sports doing consistent drills and you're working as a team. Bowling is more on the individual side, so you have to tailor to the individual needs of that bowler and work on their weaknesses and turn them into their strengths. And every bowler has their different strengths and weaknesses.
And the individuality part of the game, obviously important, like you just said. you recently, this past weekend, mentioned earlier before we even went on, you had for the first time all five of your bowlers eligible to bowl this weekend. How huge was that to finally get kind of the whole gang together in one weekend?
I think it's the confidence they finally needed. And I think we finally were able to see the potential out of it. You know, the guys finished 8 out of 21 on Saturday. And I think that was a potential they really needed to see. We were maybe 30 pins out of 6th place, which is only a couple of spares. So I think that really sets the tone for next season. When we kind of get together and we have more bowlers on the team, where we can use subs and everyone's healthy or eligible. So I think it was something that they really needed to have and a positive impact that will set the future.
Certainly seems like you guys are on the rise and growing a really strong and solid program there. Coach, before we let you go, give us one little interesting fact or tidbit about you that other people would not know.
My brother is actually 20 years older than me, and sure enough, today is his birthday, so happy birthday to my brother.
Alrighty, happy birthday indeed, Coach. Thank you for joining us. That's all for Media Monday, Raven Nation. Thanks for tuning in.